And a good advance warning. So I can sort of welcome everyone in this morning. Hope you're all having a good day, and I hope sounds all okay. But my voice is a bit booming, I'm afraid. It's got the good northern twang to it, so it usually communicates quite well, for good or for ill. So just to introduce a bit about myself, my name's Paul McQuillan. I work and founded a company called CRMCS. I've worked with, I guess, the Microsoft Cloud for about 20 years, but obviously it wasn't the cloud 20 years ago, it was various Microsoft products. But my specialism has always been in Dynamics, CRM, and what has become Power Apps. But I've always had like a big focus on document management and how companies organise their information. Because as soon as you're into document management, that's really what you become, really. And my big driver over probably most of my career has been helping people get the best out of Dynamics as my sort of core product, but alongside of that SharePoint, and using SharePoint for document management in the correct ways. And in the past, that was sometimes been a bit of a struggle. Before the cloud came along, SharePoint was an interesting product at times. But what my mission over the last probably 3 years has been that now SharePoint's in the cloud, most of Microsoft's ecosystem's in the cloud. All of that works together in a much better way. And so all of the faffing around people used to have to do in the past really isn't a problem anymore. And it's really opened what I can really do for people and how clients can use document management, CRM, databases, and then what I'm really going to talk a lot about today, Microsoft Teams as well, and how to blend all those together. And that ability to have like an information strategy of how do I do emails, how do I do documents, how do I do data, what's going on in Teams, has been sort of my driving factor. As a company, we did a lot of SharePoint and a lot of sort of solving problems for people in 2017, 2018, and then we started moving into Teams in 2019, so pre-pandemic. But obviously, as the pandemic hit, Teams became a huge thing. Microsoft Teams was, I think, Microsoft's fastest growing product of all time, which Microsoft's pretty impressive, I think. I mean, obviously, there's lots of different tools, Slack, Zoom, Teams. They are quite similar in some ways, but obviously the usage of Teams ballooned. And what I really noticed, and I'm a bit sort of interested when I look at technology, I quite like looking at the political side of technology as well. And one thing I noticed, certainly in my own life, and I noticed it more and more as the pandemic went on, the sheer volume of what I would call unstructured information, emails, Teams, meetings, just ballooned for a lot of people. And there was a lot of people who I think probably, I mean, I know I certainly struggle with it, just the sheer amount of communications coming into me that maybe otherwise would have been done in a more structured way. There'd be a meeting, or we would go and visit a client for a day, or we'd go and focus on one thing. Whereas suddenly working virtually, people can hit you up on Teams, you've got a constant stream of emails. Everyone's flexible working, so some people work in the middle of the night, some people work during the day. You've got clients over in the US or the Emirates, they're all on different time zones. And the sheer volume of information that came into you was somewhat overwhelming. And what I tended to find in lots of organisations I worked with, obviously you kind of deduce what's going on really. I'm not sure 80-20 is the right rule, but you had the people who were heavily motivated, who can work from emails, who can work from documents, were working really hard and they were burning out. And they were doing back-to-back Teams meetings, which we all know is pretty bad, but we can do it virtually in a way we can't do that physically. You can't do back-to-back meetings physically, you have to leave a room, go to a different room, at least there's some element of switchover. With Teams you just do back. And what I saw is sort of two different types of engagement that was happening with employees with their internal systems. One was you've got the high performers, they're going at it, they're doing all the emails, doing all the Teams chats, they're everywhere, and they were burning out mid-pandemic. And then you had other people who were like, what is going on? How does stuff work? Where is documents? Because they didn't have the binding of the office environment, of the sort of company culture, just sort of wasn't there, and they were kind of losing it a bit. So you had some really engaged people and some disengaged people. I'm sure everyone's found that a little bit differently. That's something I started to see, and it really got me thinking of, right, what can products do to actually help bridge that gap? You know, what can we do really? And obviously for us, you know, we're a small company. We have our core product that builds on top of the Microsoft Cloud. Obviously historically we were thinking emails, documents, everyone's emails, but then we've started to sort of build into Teams and think, right, how can you manage your information? And the biggest problems that we're trying to fix really is we find that people have unstructured information, that's in emails, Teams, whatever it might be. Where does that sit, and how can we bring that into my world, the sort of CRM, Power Apps world of structured information, and how do those two work together? So I think there's a little weakness in a lot of systems now, they often don't really. If we bring that together, can we have core principles in our business, core pillars of how the business works, that then prevent information overload? So if you're one on a particular project, you've got everything there. You're not rummaging around other emails, being distracted by other emails. You're not having to wade through lots of things. You can focus on one thing at a time. I'm an out-and-out techie, which means that I'm really good at focusing one task at a time. I'm not a natural multitasker, but I run a company now, so I have to multitask constantly. So I'm constantly a little bit fighting against myself. I'm like, I really want to solve one problem, I'll spend hours on it, do it really well, but then I don't, I'm sort of having not in that environment. So I'm constantly thinking, right, how can people do that better? And then the third one, which obviously I like talking about normally, which is the cloud is a brilliant platform now. So many people think, oh, I'll just buy this thing in the cloud and that's that. It's not really. The big backbone behind a lot of the technology I'm going to show is effectively if you buy a technology platform, it does all the basics, and I'm going to show quite a lot of that today, but you can then buy in other apps on top of that. And a big chunks of my presentation are saying, look, here's the Microsoft Cloud, you've got SharePoint, you've got Dynamics, these are platforms, that's great, but then you can buy things like the app that we've built into the cloud, which then plugs SharePoint and Dynamics and Teams in certain ways, but you can buy sales apps, marketing apps. And for me, a big change in that is that it allows you to basically use the cloud and buy in the apps you want and buy in the functionality you want, add it onto your IT backbone, and avoid having to buy big box products that go, that's what it does, that's it, job done. And that dilemma between box products and the cloud has always sort of been there, but I think the cloud and its sheer flexibility now is really winning out over, buy a product, and that's that really. And really, so our solution is laser focused on tackling those problems really. Inevitably I'm going to end up talking a bit about my technology, but really that's in the background as well, that the cloud effectively allows us to build the technology platform we need in our practice, in our firm, in our business, and have an ever-evolving platform that we can put to use. It's really a huge toolkit, and the best bit about that toolkit now is it's very much geared towards real people, not just big techies and coders like myself. And that allows people to really build their way of doing IT and ultimately put their information sort of map in place that works for their business. So that's our value proposition, and so behind a lot of that is Power Apps, which sort of is Dynamics, Teams and SharePoint. So I'll be showing a bit of that in practice now, but yeah, that's the sort of real meat and drink of the Microsoft Cloud and how to really put it to use. So without further ado, I'm going to jump into what this really looks like in the world. I've got a quite simple demo here. I've not structured it to be massively overcomplicated and lots of different things going on. So it's a broad brush concepts in many ways, in that I might have an element of my management system, call it CRM, call it however we want, where I'll have a number of engagements with different clients. So I might have different engagements that I'm currently working on, and then I'll track different bits of detail in here. And then immediately, and I almost can't emphasize the difference I've seen this make in organizations, is that somebody who's working virtually, who maybe doesn't know what's going on in an organisation, can drill into their engagement and see the full picture of what's going on. Just know that an engagement's out there. They're not, as I said, rummaging for emails, which I see a number of organisations still kind of doing, and people get lost in it really. So you instantly have our concept of an engagement that we've defined in the business, and that is built into the Microsoft Cloud. We can build those kind of concepts, whether it be an engagement, or as I'm going to come on to, work streams, cases, tasks, emails. It's that ability of what is my business? How does it all map together? Now for me, what we've got set up there is we've got a number of work streams on that engagement. So we're saying, right, we're engaging with the Future Lawyer Week 2021. We've got a couple of different work streams there, things we might be doing as part of that engagement. So I've just got two there. So I've got kind of a technology and product showcase. I can drill down into them and sort of then say, all right, these are the two different bits of that engagement that we're currently working on, and then see what is involved in that engagement. So I've then got a few different details in here. I can see the engagement, I can see the type of work that we're doing in this work stream, I can see the client who's sort of top level in the engagement, and I can see who's managing that work stream. And all of that information then sort of flows to me is looking at that, and then has elements of how that flows into documents and teams. And the first thing I can see up there is what teams activity is going on. So this is where a bit where we're moving into sort of our core product, where I can immediately see what Teams activity is happening about that work stream. So I'm not looking at a Teams channel, there's just lots of different chats, what am I looking for? I've immediately got the access to see what's happened recently, the last thing that's happened, and I can click into that and drill into Teams to then go and have a look at what's going on. The other element that I can immediately jump into, documents. And again, I'm not navigating between different systems here, I'm just jumping in and going, right, what documents are going on? This is all stored in SharePoint, which effectively is Teams for all intents and purposes, but I can just get to it from here. and then just see what documents are being tracked about that, and immediately then have ways of seeing that document. And I said the big bit, and it really revolutionises a lot of businesses, just going, right, brilliant, I'm in a work stream, I'm in a case, I see what's relevant to me right now. I'm not wading through a separate document hierarchy to go and find what's relevant to this work stream. And at a simple level, you know, our product really builds that locational awareness in, and it's a huge benefit to a lot of organisations. Going, right, it's a work stream, there's my documents, that's what's going on in Teams, here's what's going on in emails and activities, traditional CRM in a way. So I've got all the information I need in one place, and then I can interrogate that and view it by the different cases that are involved in that work stream. I'll do whatever I need to do with it, really. And then that's sort of almost standard document management. It's just like linking your sort of management database, your legal CRM to your document management system, so the two just work in tandem. I don't care where this lives in SharePoint. I just see it here. I can upload to it, remove things, edit documents directly into Word, all the things we'd expect, really. So, you know, you've got like things like Word Online, obviously nowadays, brilliant product. You don't have to, we'll get to this, that's given us privacy warnings. It's a brilliant product. You can just jump into a document, edit it there, and then you can see other people editing that document as well. So if everything is stored in the cloud and it's not download, reattach another email, send it, this is the next version of the document, all of that, once we're in the cloud, is gone. You can go into this document. If anyone else is editing it, I can see what they're doing. I can swap details with them on Teams about that document. And so I've got all of that at my fingertips, really. It's where Microsoft heavily learned from Google Docs a few years ago, where obviously Google Docs were running around doing their thing, and Microsoft were like, oh, we need to up our game. But then that document management side, we've then got quite a lot of functionality in SharePoint that very few people really put to use. The major one is the concept of metadata and having document types. Sounds simple, it's quite sort of standard stuff in SharePoint, but a lot of that technology is buried away in SharePoint, and sort of people, it's not that easy to extract and put to use. What we've done is basically making our product, so we just go in, set the document types up, say which bit of metadata you need for that document type, and make it simple to people. So rather than wondering what document types is, it's just there in front of me. I can change those to proposal, and then if there's some other metadata that I need to track about a proposal, it immediately pops up. And you can do sort of simple stuff like dynamic lists. So if I select proposal and some options for like a document subtype and a sub-subtype and things like that. What we also then get is the concept of binding what's going on in documents to back what's in CRM. So I've got a list of cases in CRM for this work stream. I can immediately see a list of cases and go, right, that's about the DocDrive 365 app. So I can immediately start then going, yeah, there's these bits of metadata, which is standard SharePoint, drop downs, things like that, but I'm binding it to CRM. I'm saying, right, I've got my list of cases in CRM, or my list of companies, or list of contacts, or which email it's from, and all of that's then available from my documents area. So I'm not having to rummage around two different systems. It's all kind of glued together, doing what we need it to do. Similarly, I can then go, right, I've got all these different documents here. I want to sort of collaborate on these. I want to share them with different ways. Obviously, I think we've still got our attachment option there, but really what we're trying to do is stop people sending documents as attachments. Obviously, attachments do have their place, but obviously as soon as you send a document as an attachment, you're effectively copying the document. So you create another physical copy of the file, you're sending it to somebody. Maybe their security standards are good, maybe they're not, but attachments are okay to a point. But really, external links, whether through our product or through SharePoint, where you give people a link and say, look, you can download the document, that's great, or you can edit it live in Office 365, you're doing that over the web, and avoid, wherever possible, sending it as attachments and copying things. But the big bit that I'm sort of really come back to is then the ability to go, all right, brilliant, I want to share that with Teams. I want to go, right, I've got a document there that I want to collaborate with different people on, so I'm going to share that via Teams and then see that pop up in a Teams channel to then sort of collaborate that in live chat. So if I jump into Teams, I've then immediately got that document shared in whichever channel I've got about the thing that I've set up. And this, I'm sort of jumping straight in here a little bit, is that where you've then got an engagement, so I've got my Future Live Week 2021, I've got a number of channels in there. Those channels come directly from the work streams. So every time I add a work stream onto that engagement, I get a new channel for them to collaborating on. And then if I go into the documents like we just done for that work stream and I go share in Teams, it goes to that channel in Teams. So for me as a user, I don't care where it lives in SharePoint. I don't care where someone's had to set up all the Teams channels. All of that's taken care for me. So it's kind of automating that. And automation is great to a point, but the big bit is you have then a consistent model of how your data works. Every engagement is a team, every work stream is a channel, every case is then a folder within that channel, if that's the structure that we want. And so you've got a consistent structure of data. So if you've got new starters, particularly coming on board during the pandemic, you go, right, this is how not just our document management works, this is how our information works. We have CRM over here, where these are our core concepts. The documents glue into that, Teams glues into that. This is how it works. And then obviously, typically, you give them access to a certain number of teams, make them a stakeholder of that, and then you kind of governing what information people can see. And there's a consistent structure right across your business. And that, in many ways, speaking behind how that works, our app that glues all this together, that's its biggest single strength. That structure that I've mapped out there, team, channel, folders, it's entirely configurable. You can configure that however we want. I've got loads of clients who use it in sort of strange and alien ways. Some people are still crazy going SharePoint folders to the max. Other people have started to go, actually, I don't really want that many folders. I'd rather do everything via metadata, and that's a better approach. Some people like having lots and lots of teams. I'm more a fan of keeping teams relatively well managed and not having too much what I would consider like SharePoint bloat, where it just sort of goes off and you've got so many teams, it's a bit overwhelming. But just having a clear, consistent structure that people are aware of. And what I found really useful, particularly for a lot of my clients who use this for project management, I look at it and I can see all the projects, so it is a bit overwhelming. But when we bring new members of the team on and go, all right, you're involved in these 3-4 projects, you've got access to 3 or 4 teams, this gives you all the information you need to know. And instantly then Teams is a really valuable tool to connect them with what they need. They've got specification documents and they've got all of the data as well. And where that kicks in, Teams, I mean, I do a lot of Microsoft seminars, so I get a bit of this directly from the Microsoft Towers. Teams is going to become Microsoft's basic platform for almost everything. As I said, they've seen how much everyone's used it, they've seen how much people quite like channels, and they're going, right, we can basically use this as our platform, not just for Office and SharePoint, which kind of is at the moment, but also for data, Power Apps, automation. And so really what they're building into a lot of teams and what we've kind of built into the way we do this is if I always come into these things directly into CRM because my sort of background a little bit, straight into Power Apps, straight into the data side of things. But a lot of people will go into Teams and they'll look at the chats, the posts, the files initially, and then go, well, how do I go into CRM from there? And then similarly, I can embed that work stream within Teams. So every channel that gets created from a work stream is embedded in Teams. I can flick between the two at a moment's notice. And again, for a technology person like myself, I see the lines between CRM and SharePoint and Teams, but increasingly users won't. They'll just go, I'm in Teams, all right, I need to look up some details about technology preparation, jump in here, take a look at what's going on. And then you can see the list of cases, they can see everything that's going on in CRM. It does get a bit Inception-like, because then you've also got the Teams there, so you go into Teams that then showing you CRM, that's then showing you what's going on in Teams again. But it's that sort of free-flowing of information effectively. And similarly, with Teams, you've got files over there. I can get access to documents there. I can get access to documents within CRM. I've also got SharePoint running behind the scenes as well. And that gives you that kind of, this is how we manage information. I don't really care what Teams and SharePoint and all these other things are. I've got a plan for how I manage information, share that with people, and giving that to the people that we work with, both internally for inside our firms, inside our companies, to go, all right, this is how we do things, and also there's huge amounts in Teams and SharePoint that you can share these things with people. You can even, security policies allowed, give people documents and say, look, you can edit this for the next 28 days, so then collaborate a document externally as much internally. And that entire structure essentially flows right the way down, so if I then go and add various cases onto here, got a very sort of simple view of what a case might look like, where I go, add the case on there, and then I've got a few details that sort of populates for me, but I can start thinking, right, what's the type of work on here is technology, because that's what the work stream is. So I can put that on there, jump into my case, but then I can change that if I want to. And then what that can then start doing is as I add documents into here, it will badge the documents with different bits of metadata based on what my case is. I might want that freeform, I want people going in and putting data into those documents, but a lot of the time what happens when I've seen people roll out SharePoint metadata, sort of any metadata really, it's like, here's your document, now fill in, what type of document is it? What's this, what's that, what's the other? And people don't want to do it because they've already finished the document, they finished what they're doing. So a lot of the time it's them binding that in with what we've got, structured data in CRM to go, this is how it all fits together. I don't really care that, I don't really need to run around changing that work type, it's already technology because the work stream's technology. And so I can use that to upload various documents around here. I can sort of generate some new ones. You know, it's typical CRM, generate letters, templates, that kind of thing. They all go directly into SharePoint. So again, nothing's outside of my kind of security envelope here. I'm not generating a document, downloading it, editing it, and then re-uploading it. Which, whilst it's not the end of the world doing anything like that, as soon as anything's outside a security envelope, you're a little bit kind of, information ends up on people's laptops. People end up with the version numbers. Everyone's done it, like version 1.5. And you know, you kind of just lose a little bit of traction. If you can keep everything in the cloud and you can make it simple like this, then you get a lot of benefits really for an organization. You've just got one structured way of doing everything really. You don't have 7 different ways of doing the same thing. And so then you've got things like work types. I've just rocked up a few work types here in CRM this morning where I've got, right, brilliant, this is the possible types of work we might be doing. So I had that as technology, but I could change that to practice law. And then again, you've got your sort of the case that document's attached to, which is obviously the one I've just uploaded to. And then really the way that then loops up is I can then go back to my work stream, take a look at the documents now, where I'm seeing the documents for both of those cases. And so you've got, at one level, a sort of normal kind of folder structure where you've got, right, you've got case number 1, you've got case number 2, what's going on in both of those. So you've got, you know, your simple kind of folder structure in many ways. But you've then got the ability to go and view that by various different things. And really what I tend to find for a lot of clients, they start off with folders, loads and loads of folders, and then they move into, actually, I'll just do things by metadata, we'll just track things by cases or contracts or you know, whatever other data that we track within CRM. Because typically a contract or an asset in my world will have loads of data in here for what Power Apps and Dynamics needs to track. And then the documents will be alongside that. So a contract will involve lots and lots of data alongside the raw contracts and PDFs that might be going on. And so we've got the different views of doing that, and then sort of going, right, how do you want to view documents? What are you going to be doing with that? So I can immediately then, you know, in this example, it's similar to folders because I'm viewing it by case, but then I can start seeing, right, what's the, what case is attached to it, and then what work type is involved. So again, that kind of metadata flows right the way for everything I'm doing. And then just jumping up one level, I can then look at that from the engagement point of view. So I've kind of got the top of the tree now, jump into documents, and I've got much the same view where I can sort of see everything, but I'm seeing it right from the engagement now. So I can see all the different work streams that are going on. I can see all the different cases underneath that. I can see it within a folder view, as we might sort of initially expect it to be. So I've kind of got all the folders there. And obviously the view here exactly matches what I'm seeing in Teams as well. So like I can see my channels in Teams. I can see it in here as well by folders. So I've got that in there, but I've also got the ability to then do it by different views. So I might do it by different types of content, different types of work type. So I've got the content ability to sort of see the content the way I want to manage it and then manage it effectively. And what that then builds onto is another brilliant feature in SharePoint. I wish I'd take all the credit for it, but really it's rare in SharePoint, but it's kind of a little bit hidden away. People kind of see it, but then sometimes don't see it, which is then the ability to go, well, it's brilliant. I've now got 2,000 documents logged against an asset. So we work with quite a few asset managers who have literally thousands of documents and there are currently hundreds of folders. It's this crazy view. And so they're going, well, how on earth do we find something that we're looking for? We've got content types, we're starting to roll out metadata, it's all great and everything. But really, obviously everyone's used to Google searches. You type something, you go and find a list of documents. SharePoint's got brilliant functionality like that, but it's kind of just a little bit hidden away. You have to go to SharePoint to get to it and that kind of thing. And then you have to be in the right SharePoint site to work out what you're searching. We just plug that in at the top level there for engagement. Every engagement's a team, and behind the team is a SharePoint site. So I can go, all right, brilliant, I'm just going to search all the documents that happen to be in that team. So I'm going to search my engagement and go and find whatever content is in there. And then I've got, you know, various ways of filtering it. I can get back to my content types and all that lot. But often that, I just want a keyword search. I just want to find all documents with CRM/CS in it. And then use SharePoint correctly, have a nice preview of the document, bang, all right, that's the one I'm looking for. And then pull that up and then do what we need to do with it. And really have that kind of way of looking at the structured level of like linking documents, which are often very unstructured, with the structured layer that we have, you know, engagements, workstream, cases, tasks, emails, that kind of thing. Linking all of that together. And so we've got like a core system in place. We go, this is our management system effectively. I said, call it CRM, call it Power Apps, call it whatever it might be, but it's our way of managing the business effectively. We use it for managing projects, cases. We've got a couple of engineering companies who've used this to manage all the different parts of projects that are going on when they're dealing with different customers and different suppliers. There's loads and loads of different ways of using it, but it gives you that consistent structure of like, here's how we do business. So you've got that as your structured data linking in with your unstructured, and then you've got something like this search, which is very much kind of searching and structured in many ways. It's going, bang, type a word in, here's what you're looking for, filter it by, I'm only looking for a Word document, filter that by that. Then I've just got the Word documents that apply to that filter, bang, that's what I'm looking for, I'll go and start doing whatever I need to do with that document. And again, I haven't had to download anything, I'm straight into that document, I can make some edits in it, it's all saved automatically back into the cloud. I don't really have to do any of the semantic worrying about this, that and the other. And with CRM, that's long been the case with emails, and long been the case with different bits of data that we track, like activities, meetings, and that kind of thing. You know, the integration with Outlook has been sort of ticking away for many years now. But with documents, it sort of hasn't been really. It's still been kind of a bit trying to glue all the bits together. And that's what I've spent probably a good few years now learning from different organisations how to glue those bits together. Initially for documents over the last few years, and then probably for the last 2 years. So I was worried with teams like jumping on the pandemic bandwagon, but really we started doing it about mid-2019, and then obviously massively accelerated with the pandemic because pretty much everybody we know is kind of, even some people were heavily adopters of Teams before pandemic, but anybody who'd never looked at it before suddenly was like, what's all this? I've got channels now. And that then glues all of that information together. One element that I think, again, there's a lot of unstructured information out there, so I think that Teams and email are great tools, but you know, you've got them coming in thick and fast. But really the other bit that really kicks in there is if you've got lots of emails, you can track those to concepts in CRM. That's sort of standard CRM in many ways. You know, I can take an email, here's one I see emailed earlier. You can take an email and track it to that case that we've just created. There we go. I can track it to that email I just created earlier, and that's standard Dynamics / Power Apps in my world, but any attachments of that are then not just getting sucked into a database somewhere. They go into SharePoint, they go in the right location. If there's any rules on what metadata should be populated, because that document's going in about a case, they're immediately applying those rules. So again, attachment management, getting attachments into SharePoint, into documents, not just having them kind of in people's Outlooks or just kind of in the Dynamics database, which is better at structured information. You can't do that keyword search quite as well, you know, using Dynamics. You can via SharePoint to get all the documents into SharePoint, and you can glue all of that information together much more effectively. And if you've ever used some elements of Dynamics before, these used to be a little bit clunky at times, but because it gives you very much a recent items view of what you've been doing, you go, all right, brilliant, I'm working on that case recently, bang, that email's tracked to the last case I worked on. And that, I think Dynamics introduced that a couple of years ago, but it makes the Outlook side of Dynamics about 1 billion times better, because you just go, right, that's the thing I used most recently. And then that plugs into SharePoint. You've got the sort of different documents uploaded in there, and then all of that, depending on different rules of how we want to use Teams, then flows into Teams. I said Teams ping in is another way you can sort of easily get people overloaded, but you can set up your rules there to go, every time a case happens, pop something in Teams. We have a number of people connected to that work stream, typically stakeholders. Notify all of them that a new case has been added to the work stream. They might want to collaborate on that. Or you can put little rules like I've done here, that every time a document's uploaded to a work stream or to a case, it just pops that on screen and goes, boom, you've got a particular document's been uploaded. You can click here to access the document. You can click here to access the thing in CRM that the document's been uploaded about. And that immediately, and the thing that I've sort of seen with that is really people will engage much quicker with things on Teams. You know, if you go to somebody and go, Molly, can you review this? Can you review this document for me? You'll get a much better level of engagement with that because Teams is a little bit more real time. It's not the sort of letter format of emails. So you've immediately got a bit more of a sort of to and fro with that. And then you can think about, right, actually, if I'm collaborating on Teams, what else do I do with this? Can I run automation through Teams? Can I create tasks and things through Teams? And there's a whole ecosystem of Teams bots where you can go, I'm going to automate common tasks, whether it be more complicated workflow automation that we build into Dynamics, or whether it just be simple things where I'll just ask our sort of little doc drive bot here to go and raise me a task review document. And I can pop that in. And the advantage is raising the task from Teams is pretty easy. You don't need a fancy bot to do that. But the big thing that our tool does is because that conversation is linked to a particular case in Dynamics already, because that's where it's come from, that's where the conversation's happening, it knows that that's about a case. So I'm raising a task, it's immediately regarding that case. So I don't have to then go, oh, what's the task regarding? I'll go and plug it in the right bit of CRM. The whole thing's just joined up out of the box. So if I raise a task in here, it'll be about the work stream. If I raise a task there, it'll be about the case. And so I've got, essentially, whatever's going on in Teams matches the structured information I've got going on in CRM, and that gives me a place to put the unstructured information into SharePoint and document management. And so in many ways it's quite simple, just build an organisational plan of how we deal information. But what I've really seen pre-pandemic, mid-pandemic, post-pandemic, that approach to organisations really helps people kick on. It stops your high performers effectively being, oh, if you put that there, if you put that there, you know, the kind of, you don't have the answer to that email. It stops them dealing with like root and branch stuff around emails and working stuff out, and lets them focus on what they actually want to focus on, whether it be an engagement or a case or a work stream or whatever it might be. It really sort of gives them a sort of lingo of how they're going to do work, and they're not email chasing or worrying about what's structured and what's not. I've seen that it's simple stuff, but it gives huge productivity gains in my experience. I've seen a lot of organisations kind of, you know, struggle a bit with that, then roll out systems like this and then just make sure they're getting it right effectively. And I've seen a huge amount of productivity gain from that. And the thing I've definitely seen in the pandemic that I've not seen prior to the pandemic, and I've definitely felt it myself as well, is that the more of that sort of email chasing and unstructured information is going on, the more burnout you get from your high performers, which you don't really want. You know, you don't want people chasing emails, getting emails at 8 o'clock at night and just not knowing what to do with them. You want all of that structure to in the right place. Someone's working on a particular project, they've got the emails, they've got the documents, they can see anything going on in Teams. They focus on that project for a period, for the time that they're doing or the time they're built into it. They do that and then they move on. They're not trying to worry about 8 different projects at the same time, because email isn't indexed anywhere. As soon as you open your email, you've got all the emails from 8 different projects, and so you're getting lost in the detail. And high performers will feel obliged to go and do something in those 8 projects. So they'll lose an hour every day doing all 8, rather than focusing on the one we want them focusing on. And I think particularly during the pandemic, I've seen that be a huge, let's not just get productive, let's actually make sure we're like looking after people and we're not drowning them. And I think, obviously I'm a proper technologist, so I can talk about this until the cows come home, but I think that is almost us in a nutshell. As I say, I've kept that very simple. I've not dwelt into all the details about what's involved in the case or what we might be doing it and sort of task management thing. Keep it to those core concepts. But that, to me, and I think I've done it enough now to be a bit bossy with it, is the right way to use the Microsoft Cloud for doing any kind of asset project management nowadays. Getting that triangle between documents in SharePoint, collaboration in Teams, data in Dynamics. And that's, I think, the right way to do it. And I think linking it back to my beginning of my sort of chat of joining the dots in the Microsoft Cloud, those are the dots, and I think that's how we join them up, really. So I can open that to 4 if anyone's got any questions. I sort of live and breathe this stuff, and said I'm more of a technology person in many ways, so I know all of the nuts and bolts that's going on there. I can talk witter on about Power Automate. But yeah, if anyone's got any questions or any thoughts that might trigger, really.
Well, it's been years since I've seen a demo of Peppermint Legal. I see that on your left-hand side there. From memory, they're based on Dynamics as well.
They are indeed, yeah. I've worked with our platform a little bit.
I wondered, is this a replacement to that, or is something you think complements it?
Because we're quite a small company, I try and avoid directly competing with people like Peppermint, so it kind of plugs in as a complement to that, really. If I was being a bit bolshy with my tech hat on, I think our SharePoint integration is done better than theirs. But I think that's just where they were kind of keeping up with the on-prem side of things. They had to juggle both baskets, really. Ours does on-prem, but a lot of our clients are in the cloud now, so it makes it a bit easier for us to do it in a bit more of a sort of fancy way, really. And so the big bit that I've not just got too much in that is everything we saw is configurable of what we just done. All the NCs, content types, rules going into Teams, it's all configurable. None of it's like code elective, well, it's all code behind the scenes, but that code is entirely configurable to how people want to use it. Yeah, no, I think when I was writing up a few demos, oh, Peppermint, I'll use them as a bit of a demo company. So yeah, no, just go for it.
Yeah, so just from an implementation perspective, so let's say a small business looking to switch over to SharePoint
No, nowadays anybody like me, I used to be just a Dynamics person. I was like, oh, go on off and get Office from someone else. But really, the way Microsoft do it now, you can set that all up and get Office, SharePoint, Teams, and Dynamics, or any one of those, pretty much in an afternoon. In the cloud, it's very, very simple now. You can start from one user, you can start from 100 users. Oh yeah, similar drill really. All of our stuff runs in Azure. It's got a kind of 30-minute install there. I've got a few clients who use it and don't use anything else. So they'll use our tool, but they don't need us for any consultancy. They set it up, they got 5 to 20 users. We install it for them, we give them a bit of training, and that's that. There's no upfront cost whatsoever. What I've tended to find, particularly for our bigger customers who do like more content types and security and metadata, usually it's best to do like a couple of days of consultancy to set it up and get all the rules right, really. But that's where we've been living and learning a little bit. But typically our product, yeah, we've got quite a few customers who just pay user per month and then just run with it really. And then obviously for somebody like myself, and I see them setting up all their own rules, I'm really happy because I'm like, right, brilliant. So, they can do it all themselves now. But what I'll do is I'll make sure we've got a copy of the slides. We've got like pricing in there, just for like either bits of consultancy set up and then just our kind of app price. Behind the scenes technology, it's all based in Azure. Microsoft have signed off on us, and so yeah, it's also sort of quite easy to go on that front. Just kind of a plug and play really. So yeah, well I hope that's interesting. I sort of said it's kind of weird with the pandemic a little bit. Spent so much time staring at screens and doing technology. It's kind of interesting to do a face-to-face event and so on. Oh, here's what we've been doing. But yeah, I hope that's a good explanation of the cloud and Teams and what we can do really. All right, thank you very much. Good stuff. Well, let everyone grab coffee and what else cosmonauts have got for us.